So now a couple of questions we're going to lump together here. Who is more likely to help, and how might we be able to increase helping behaviors? Huh? So is it possible we help because of personality factors? Like the big five, ocean, right? Is it possible? Was there something all of Kitty Genovese's neighbors lacked some personality factor? Something of that nature? Maybe, but what are the odds that every single one of Kitty Genovese's neighbors is somehow lacking the personality factor? Well, we find that some people are helpful, some aren't. Put two people in the exact same situation. So there is some relationships between elements of personality, like need for social approval. So people high in need for social approval are more helpful, but it's not a huge relationship. But there's really no other traditional like ocean personality factor or something. But if you think about helpfulness as a personality trait by itself, then yeah, it's fairly stable. As in all elements of personality, it's fairly stable across time. People that were helpful when they were 5 are helpful when they're 10 or helpful when they're 50, right? And so if we look at it that way, or we could predict who's going to be helpful if we look at people that have high self-efficacy, high positive emotionality. I don't even know what these words are. They sound like words from Dr. Hand's work. And high in empathy tend to be more helpful. We find religion is related to helpfulness. Intrinsically religious people do help more, but when it comes to spontaneous helping, it's very slight. That is like in situations where helping is unexpected. But when it comes to situations where helping can be planned out, like mission trips, okay, clearly religious people are much more helpful in these planned helping ways. So weekly attenders at church, about 24% of the Americans, give 48% of philanthropic contributions. So clearly this group does in fact give more. So how can we increase helping? All right, well, we can take this notion of the feel-good, do-good phenomenon, and we just say if it's true that people in a good mood are more helpful, then put them in a good mood. It's just straightforward. On sunny days, people tip more. If you're walking in the park and it's good weather, people are more likely to pick up garbage laying on the ground. All right, it's just pretty straightforward. Maybe it's sort of like, I like this, a norm of reciprocity, but on a global level. The universe gave me this good mood, and therefore I owe it back to the universe or something. I don't know, it sounds like crazy combination. Or maybe guilt. Yeah, they did one this study where they're like, oh, can you take my picture? And they go to take a picture and the camera breaks. All right. Oh my God. Oh, don't worry. And then a couple minutes later, a bag of groceries breaks. Are they going to help? And the answer is yeah. If they think they broke a camera, then later on they have an opportunity to help pick up groceries, they are way more likely. Okay? Or, you tell people to lie about something and then later on they volunteer a lot more, maybe to alleviate the guilt, right? It's like maybe the norm of reciprocity again. You make up for misdeeds, or you want to help in order to get out of a bad mood, right? Because the helpfulness, when you help others, it will make you feel good about yourself and alleviate the bad feelings that you have. Reducing ambiguity, right? We had already said the whole idea. Reducing ambiguity make smaller groups. All right, make them less anonymous. I mean, I guess I'm not sure ambiguity. How I know what it is, but I guess if helpfulness situations are made more explicit, we really need your help. I guess that would be what it's referring to in reduced ambiguity. But decreasing anonymity. Yeah, if you're anonymous, then all of a sudden you're easy to walk away without helping. But if you can be personally identified, in other words, the costs of not helping, like looking like a social bad boy, That's a cost of not helping. But anyway, if you're anonymous, you can walk off with no costs. But if you're not anonymous, then all of a sudden a label, a stigma can be attached to you. The door in the face is an interesting way to increase helpfulness. It's in what you're going to do. See, it's sort of like the opposite of foot in the door. And remember, with foot in the door, what you do is you ask for a small favor first, and then once somebody is given a small favor, then they're more likely to give a large favor. So instead, what you do is you go around on day one and you ask people to volunteer at a homeless shelter. Most people are like, no, thank you. Okay? But there's going to be some guilt there, isn't there? There's going to be some guilt because they did not give this thing. So on day two, you go around and ask people to donate to a homeless shelter. Clearly, donating to a homeless shelter involves less, is a less commitment. And so people are much more likely to say yes if they said no first. So it's ask for the big thing first, and then after you get rejected for the big thing, get the smaller thing. Okay? Information dissemination. Yeah, education is key. All right. It turns out that once students have learned about these elements of helping and how these work, they're more likely to help at a later date. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Education is king. You all have this now, so if I break my leg, you all got to help me, right? That's how that works. All right. Moral exclusion. This is actually an interesting idea. We can teach the opposite. Okay, moral exclusion is the idea that my conception of moral values and rules only applies to a limited group of people, like in my in-group in particular. Okay? But moral inclusion is the idea, even those people that I don't know, my moral values and rules of fairness apply to them even if they're outside of my group. They're still human beings and deserve it. Okay? And you can teach this to children, all right? You can teach it as a lesson plan, and lo and behold, if you teach moral inclusion to children, they will be far more likely to exhibit helping behavior. And then modeling altruism. And I had already kind of talked about this, with this being the main point of Sesame Street, or the creators of Sesame Street. But what we find is that children learn to be altruistic, friendly, and self-controlled by looking at television programs depicting such behavior patterns. And you see under my face here, they had children watch an episode of Lassie, which had a helping example, an episode of Lassie without a helping example, or an episode of the Brady Bunch. And then all of a sudden the mean number of seconds of helping offered. So if they watched Lassie with a helping example, they volunteer or help for almost twice as much time. Okay? And so here's a nice summarization of different ways that we can increase helping behavior, right? Undo the restraints of helping. I like it. Socialize altruism. That's really pretty cool stuff. And so, yeah, it is our job as parents to socialize altruism from an early age because, as we said, helpfulness is like a personality factor. And all personality factors are malleable in youth, but become hardened with time, okay? And in the same way that somebody's personality profile gets fairly well locked in around age 20, I mean, there's very little change after 20. It's the same thing with helpfulness as a personality factor. All right, so there we go. We're talking helpfulness, and we put the book on it, and you study for exam 3.